I am passionate about family, children, and education. By a show of hands, how many in the audience are parents? Great, so a lot of you, thank you. And how many of you are teachers? Great, thanks. Now I know as parents, you are doing the very best that you can to provide a healthy and happy home life for your children. And I know as teachers, you do the very best that you can so that your students meet success. But I also know that when issues and challenges arrive with our kids, there's a tendency to criticize each other and to judge each other. And for those of us that are parents and teachers simultaneously, we're just a mess because we don't know what side to blame, right? But if we lean into these issues and challenges, we can come up with solutions together. Now, I know that an effective way to do this is by looking at child development, because children 0 to 7, 7 to 14, and 14 to 21 need very different support systems as they grow and develop. We know, for example, that children 0 to 7 understand the world through their bodily senses. That is, what children see, smell, hear, taste, and touch is how a child engages in the world. Children at this age believe that the world is an extension of their own body. This is why we see little kids running into each other, because they don't know where they end and their friend begins. Right? So while we don't expect a 4-year-old to put together a business plan or understand great literary works of art, that doesn't mean that they aren't absolutely brilliant. Many years ago, when my sons were very young, my husband and I had a playpen in the middle of our living room. And it was one of those that had mesh sides on it. And I had just come home from a yoga class, and I walked into the living room, and there is the baby on the outside of the playpen, pulling himself up, but wanting to get into the playpen. And I thought, okay, this is weird. He never wanted to be in the playpen. And I looked closer, and my 5-year-old was sitting in the playpen. And I said, honey, what are you doing in the playpen? And he said, well, Mama, it's the only place in the house where I can play with my Legos. So I knew I had a genius, right? But that was very illuminating to me for 2 reasons. My son had given me some tools to be an effective parent. And one of those were very clear boundaries so that he could get on with the business of playing. And the other one was that he needed to be in the middle of the family dynamic. He wanted to be near us. He could have gone into his room and played with his Legos and not have baby Zilla come and slobber all over his masterpiece. But he decided he needed to be in the center. And so those are 2 very, very important tools that we can use as parents and teachers when working with young children. The other thing that I know is that children at this age learn through modeled behavior. And so as adults, we need to be worthy of emulation, because children at this age need to know that the world is good. And then by extension, the child can say, I am good. Children 7 to 14 have a different way of interpreting the world. Around age 8.5 or 9, often we see regressive behaviors. Now this can be bedwetting, thumb sucking, nightmares, a reluctance to want to spend the night at a friend's house, even though she lives 2 doors away. Rudolf Steiner, who is the founder of Waldorf education worldwide, says this is the 9-year change. And it's really a time when the child becomes aware that her world and herself are separate. In their phenomenal book, Optimal Parenting, authors Ba and Josette Lovemore say that children at this age become cognizant of their own death. And because now children know that their physical body is going to fall away, they need to interact with the world through a different lens. And that lens is through the heart. This is the birth of the feeling life of children 7 to 14. This is why the arts are so critical to our elementary and middle school age children, because this is where emotional competencies and capacities are developed. And when children can explore and express themselves without being right or wrong, then we have a full human being. Children that are not allowed to express themselves have those feelings anyway, and they get buried deep inside, and what we end up with are bullies. Parents around middle school age come to me and say, well, it's lovely that my daughter likes to paint, or that my son is really into music, but this is middle school, they're going to high school and then on to college, and I really need my son to be ahead. And I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, yes. And then I laughed right out loud, because you don't want your son to be a giant head. Yeah? You want him to be a full human being. When we focus our education from the neck up, we lose so much of what's going on with children at this age. Because what children need to know at this time in their life is that life is beautiful. And then by extension, the child can say, I am beautiful. Children 14 to 21, and yes, they are still children, they have no frontal lobes. They're not developed yet. Need something entirely different. They need to know that the world is true. But this truth cannot come from an imposed upon them. It has to come out of them. This is why children at this age will challenge everything from Thanksgiving dinner at grandma's to the Bill of Rights. This is their job. This is what they're supposed to do. And yet this freedom needs to be managed. Yes, of course, dear, you can use the car. But there are laws that you have to comply with. A few years ago, my family and I were on the wild and scenic river of the Rogue. And there were 5 teenagers and 3 adults, and we were clearly outnumbered. But as we were chopping vegetables that night for dinner, I turned to one of these lovely young teens, and who I've known since she was a baby, and I said, so how's it going? How's school? And she said, well, it's like this. I'm taking AP classes and honors classes and all of these hard classes so that I can get into a good college, so that I can get a good job, so that I can earn a lot of money, so that when I finally retire, I'll be able to do what I want to do. And I said, really? And she said, yes, but I'm going to change that. And I said, well, how are you going to change that? And she said, well, I'm just going to get a great job making lots of money doing what I love to do. And I thought, right on, that's what we want for you. And I just want to tip my hat to my parents. I remember coming in at dinner time and announcing that I was now a vegetarian because the slaughter of animals was not only disgusting, it was immoral, as I took off my leather gloves and unzipped my leather boots. Yeah? Okay. So laughing with our teens helps forge connection. Laughing at them does not. So as we are on this quest to be the very best that we can for our children, I have a quote that I would like to leave with you, and I've read it pretty much every day. It's on my fridge, and it says, when you are on the edge of all of the light that you know, and you are about to step off into the abyss of the unknown, faith is knowing one of two things will happen. Either there will be something solid to stand on, or you'll be taught how to fly. Fly safely. Thank you.